As I get home and pretty much say goodnight to her, she responds saying she's not tired now. After I asked her why she said that, she said she's thinking about stuff. And well, you'll never guess what she said next. Don't forget to hit subscribe and smack that bell button to become an honorary Fear member so that you never miss a video. Heyo, and welcome back to part 2 of the date that wasn't supposed to be a date. I see you're very curious to see the outcome of this particularly awkward story. So without even keeping you waiting, let's pick up from where I left off. So, just to recap on part 1 of this 2-part story, I tell the story of my really strange interaction with this girl named Syndey, who was completely leading me on and off with what had seemed to be her interest in wanting me to be her boyfriend, but continued to do really off-putting things that made me feel like she was pulling me by a string. If you didn't get a chance to watch that story, be sure to check it out down in the description below. Now, let's continue where I left off. So many months down the road, after what had seemed to be us both losing interest for each other, I had finally moved on with my life, and we both just kind of stopped interacting for each other for what would seem to be about half a year. After all of that time passing, I happened to be hopping on a plane to the east from where I lived in order to meet up with a friend who I hadn't seen in a while. This also happened to be the same place that Syndey lived in. And you'll never guess who ends up texting me. Yup. Unbeknownst to my attention, I had mentioned I was going to this certain place on my social media or something, which she of course must have been following me, on which I'm assuming is how she knew where I was going. And while I had made my way up to the place to see my friend, she started suddenly talking to me again. Now the thing was that I was going to be staying in this area for a few days, and I of course told my friend about this girl. And well, it kind of led to a pretty interesting conversation. So here I am, no longer relevant to this girl, while I'm also going through a very low point in my life. So you can imagine the obnoxious giggle that came out of me when I saw that she had texted me. And it goes a little something like this. So if you can remember from part 1 of the story, I was saying how I wasn't really digging this girl at first. But then, once we got to know each other and start talking a lot more, I started to feel some things. I'll just say that. I started to feel a little bit of stuff. But, for her to just kind of just ghost me all of a sudden, I'm not vibing with that. It's not cool, bro. So as you can imagine, this all just kind of made me not like her even more now. But things do get slightly interesting from here. So after essentially explaining my situation to my friend who I was visiting, he had weirdly enough encouraged that I see her while I was over there. Why? Well, just to see how things go. I mean, perhaps we just had a rather bumpy start to something that could have been real. But the other side of the coin too was that I wasn't going to be staying there for long, and well, thinking from a rational point of view, nothing would really be able to work out even if we did have a thing for each other. But to be quite honest, my curiosity got the better of me. After a night of sleeping on the idea, I had decided that I would hang out with Syndey just to finally see for myself if this girl was who everyone warned me about, or simply just a misunderstanding. Little did I know that this would soon lead to a rather uncomfortable situation. And awkward was it ever. And we'll get back to the story, but I just want to quickly say how in this point in my life, I had started to go through a bit of a rather experimental phase. What do I mean? And I know what you're thinking. Get that out of your mind, okay? I had gone through a weird phase of my life where I actually kind of wanted to be put in awkward situations. Now, why would any sensible person do something like that? I mean, that's pretty weird, Jordan. Why would you want to put yourself through that? That's so cringy. Well, the real answer is I wanted to grow as a person. Because the truth is, guys, being put in very uncomfortable situations is really the only true way to help us grow. I mean, how are you ever going to grow or become a better person if you're always comfortable? like the saying goes, life begins outside your comfort zone, and well, I really just wanted to take that to the next level and just suffer it out, essentially. Because you see, at this time, I hadn't really been put in many situations, so I really had a lot of time to reflect, and I just made this decision to start throwing myself out in the world and just see what happens. Boy, was that a bad idea. And with all that being said, I eventually realized that being awkward, well, is all a part of life. So during this time, rather than feeling anxious about this situation, I felt a little more curious, if anything. So I dropped her a text, we started talking, and before you knew it, we were all set to have our first ever hangout. Now, this wasn't a date to me by any means, and I had just wanted to hang out with this girl, considering we've never actually hung out before. So that's pretty much how I was treating it at this point. And to be real with you guys, there was no flirting going on between us at all. There was some cold, stale texts going on, okay? I picked her up, and so began our hangout. First going to a coffee shop and having some small chats about things, then going to a movie shortly after. The time we spent in the coffee shop was pretty nice considering we got on some wide range topics, but I definitely was getting a weirder vibe when we went into the theater, which isn't really worth mentioning other than the fact that she had acted very closed and awkward with me. But to be quite honest, I feel theaters can do that to anyone. The theater can definitely bring the awkward side out in people, so I definitely don't blame her for that. Afterwards, we finished the movie and we made our way back to the car. It did begin to rain, and at that point I offered her my jacket since she didn't have one at all. And you know, I just also wanted to be, well, a gentleman. But she had said she was fine and walked in the rain without her jacket. This to me was where I began to feel like I was picking up signs that this girl was not really digging me like I thought she did. Granted, a girl doesn't need to always accept a guy's jacket when it rains, but anyways, we get in my car and then begin to go on a late night drive. Aren't late night drives so magical? There's just something so different about hopping in your car, getting on the road, having some great company, and just having those late night chats, you know, talking about life and all that stuff. And well, that's exactly what we did. From previous breakups to situations we've been in, we were turning every rock over with the conversations we were having, and to be quite honest, it was really nice. Admittingly, the entire night, I felt very thrown off by this girl, but at this point, I actually felt like I was finally getting to know her. So, we continued to drive for a few hours, and also continued to chat. Now remember folks, I was only hanging out with Syndey just to get to know her a little better. I had heard so many bad things about this girl from a lot of my friends, and you know, I just didn't feel right not actually getting my own opinion about her myself, so that's why I chose to do all this. You know, I just kind of wanted a first impression, to be honest. Maybe if things work out, you know, maybe if things click and we have a good time, perhaps something could come out of it in the future, you know? But at the moment, I just didn't know, you know? And like, the thing is, you know what? I'm just gonna keep letting the story play out for you. So after a ton of driving, we eventually parked on top of a hill and just chilled out for about 20 minutes because I had just drove for over 3 hours around town and we kind of just ended up sitting in silence. I not knowing what to do while we both just laid in there super awkward. More so because deep down, I knew there was a vibe in the car, if you know what I mean. And I think you know what I mean. The thing was though, I wasn't down to make a move. Why? Because, what's the point? I mean, like, my main priority was hanging out with my friend, and also, not to mention, I only had a few days in this place. And there is no way I'm doing long-distance relationships. Nuh-uh. Not about that life anymore. I also didn't know when I'd be coming back, so that was another point. And you know, I just didn't want to have any of this be a part of my life anymore. I just didn't want to do any of this. It was just too much work, man. Too much work. Afterwards, I brought her home, and this was where things really got awkward. As I was saying goodbye to her, she kind of just wouldn't leave my car. I mean, it was like she didn't pick up on the cue that I wasn't gonna kiss her, but she stayed anyways. And again, I wasn't down to start something that's not gonna go anywhere. I'm a respectful guy like that. And well, eventually, she did get out of my car and finally went home. As I get home and pretty much say goodnight to her, she responds saying she's not tired now. After I asked her why she said that, she said she's thinking about stuff. And well, you'll never guess what she said next. Shortly afterwards, she followed up with sending a text saying, "I really wanted you to kiss me tonight." Who does that? Who texts someone after hanging out for the first time ever and says, "I wanted you to kiss me tonight"? That's just so, like, it's just so awkward to even remember and think about. Can you imagine reading that? You know, you just hang out with somebody, you don't know it all for the first time ever, you have no intentions of doing anything, you're just getting to know them, you know? Like, you're not there hoping they fall in love with you, you're not there being like, "Ooh, yes, gonna go get some." No. This was straight up just meeting this girl who I heard a lot of things about, and I just wanted, and then she just sends that. Man, first impressions are important, people. A kiss is supposed to be natural, by the way, you know? Like, it's not just supposed to feel like it has to happen because you hung out. Can a guy and a girl not hang out without it feeling like, "Oh, we have to... Are we dating? Are they gonna make a move? I'm not into this." And like the other thing I want to point out too is like I was just really shocked because like the whole night she just threw me off. Like I just felt so thrown off. This girl was not flirty. She wasn't like, you know, she didn't seem like she was really into me. So for me to just read that afterwards was like, what? And at the end of the day, I hung out with this girl to get an opinion about her and, you know, get my first impression, and well, I think I got my answer. Regardless, a few days later, I flew home, and well, this girl continued to message me. Even later down the road, when I got a girlfriend, and she got a boyfriend. But maybe I'll save that for another story. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you did enjoy this two-part story series. I think this was the first time I've ever had a story that required 2 parts to it. But either way, if you did like it, guys, be sure to leave a like on the channel, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell button so you're always on top of my content. And I will see you guys in the next video. Alright guys, take care and have a wonderful day. See ya!